Southside revitalization sets the standard for future redevelopment, protecting the city's youngest residents from lead poisoning and bringing the 2011 paving season to a close in style. We invite you to join us now as we take you inside City Hall this week. Hello, I'm Amy Blaylock. Welcome to City Hall this week, dedicated to keeping you informed about what's going on inside Durham City Hall. City administrators have unveiled their plan for making sure the Southside Revitalization Project sets the standard for how such projects should be handled in the future. The City Council recently received a presentation on how that will be accomplished, in part through the Small Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Strategic Plan, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, Section 3 plan, and a job training plan for the project.
The Southside project is a unique project. We've talked about that before, and we're going to do some things differently with this project that we have not done previously.
The HUD Section 3 and Small Disadvantaged Business Enterprise plans are considered to be crucial to the overall success of the project and what it will ultimately mean for the Southside community. It is important to note that the Section 3 plan is race and gender neutral, while the Small Disadvantaged Business Enterprise plan, which focuses on businesses, is related to gender and race.
It's important that we include our minority and women's businesses in this project. And this particular SDBE plan is designed to help bring that about. So the focus of this plan is not on jobs, it is on the inclusion of businesses. And we want people to be real clear about that.
The project will be rolled out in phases and specific small disadvantaged business goals set for each portion of the project.
The goal of the plan is to encourage the use of small disadvantaged business enterprises in this Southside revitalization project. Our objectives, of course, are to have a very high level of participation of SDBEs in this project. We want to promote the development of SDBEs through their relationships with prime contractors and to achieve fair and equitable distribution of contracts. It's important, though, to point out that this program largely impacts subcontracting.
That plan and HUD Section 3 will apply to all parts of the Southside project.
Section 3 originates from the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. And this provision comes out of Section 3 of that act, passed in 1968. The purpose of Section 3 is to ensure that employment and other economic opportunities generated by certain HUD financial assistance shall, to the greatest extent feasible, be consistent with the existing federal, state, and local laws and regulations, be directed to low and very low income persons, particularly those who are recipients of government assistance for housing, and to business concerns which provide economic opportunities to low and very low income persons.
To qualify as a Section 3 resident, the person must meet the following criteria.
The resident must be a public housing resident or a resident of the service area. In the case of the city of Durham, with our plan, the city of Durham's plan, the service area is the city limits.
If a contractor or subcontractor needs to hire new people to cover the work, they are required to submit a Section 3 plan to the city to identify potential new hires. A Section 3 coordinator will be hired to help coordinate that system, which will give priority to job seekers in the Southside community.
The outreach coordinator will use the following preferences to match job applicants with job postings. First, we'll look at Section 3 certified residents within the Southside community. Then we'll look at residents from the Durham Housing Authority properties. And then we'll look at Section 3 certified residents within the service area, that's the city limits. And then from that point, it goes into job link and then any other outreach efforts. that we will have and that the company will have.
That approach will not only address the Section 3 requirements of the plan, but the workforce strategy as well. City staff says they have also been talking with the developer about on-the-job training with the potential for permanent positions once the project is complete. City leaders and residents driving on freshly paved streets and neighborhoods throughout Durham are marking the successful completion of the city's 2011 paving season. To celebrate the season's many accomplishments and specifically the paving of Harvard Avenue in northeast central Durham, the city held a ribbon-cutting ceremony called The Buck Stops Here on September 24th.
We're glad to see everybody out here to help us celebrate two wonderful accomplishments from this summer. Certainly the first and one of the reasons we're here is the construction and paving of Harvard Avenue, as well as the successful conclusion of the city's 2011 paving season.
During the ceremony, Mayor Bill Bell stressed the importance of the Harvard Avenue project to the neighborhood and to the city overall.
For many of us today, this is a very long history for Harvard Avenue. It's near and dear to a lot of our hearts. As probably most of you know, the City Council has made a focus on trying to revitalize our inner city neighborhoods, and we know we can't do all of them at one time because we just don't have the resources to do that. So we've been sort of strategic in selecting the neighborhoods that we focused on, and Northeast Central Durham has been one of the high priorities. And a part of Northeast Central Durham obviously has been the issue with Harvard Avenue. And this dates back as far as 1995, when we had numerous petitions, even prior to my time, for curb and gutter and paving were submitted to the city, but for a variety of reasons, it just didn't meet the necessary requirements for the City Council to get the street paved. But as I said, this has been one of our priority neighborhoods, and when we looked at the shape of this street before, you had school buses. It was just a bad road, bad impression, and it needed to be done.
In addition to Harvard Avenue, Public Works Director Marvin Williams also offered a look at the year's other paving accomplishments.
I'm proud to report that we have by far exceeded our paving goals this summer, and there are now almost 102 street miles of freshly paved streets here in Durham.
Yeah.
In all, the city is working to repave 150 miles of Durham's worst streets, an effort that will continue into the 2012 paving season as well.
Beginning next April, as we head into the 2012 paving season, our contractors will be tackling the remaining street miles that were ranked as poor or very poor by our 2007 survey. Judging from the work that was accomplished this season, I feel very confident that we will get these street miles repaved. Then we will have the ongoing responsibility of keeping our streets repaved on an annual basis so we never find ourselves facing such a backlog again.
Durham's repaving efforts are being funded from recent bonds totaling $37.5 million, including a $20 million bond approved last November. For more information about Durham's repaving efforts, visit DurhamOperationGreenlight.org. Making sure that all of Durham's streets are meeting the needs of its residents is one of the city's primary goals, even in neighborhoods that have failed or are struggling for one reason or another.
These are developments, neighborhoods that haven't ever been completed by the developer. Often this is because the developer had to go into a bankruptcy because of the downturn in the economy. And so the city's stepping in to take care of it and do some of that work.
In order to identify what problems need to be addressed, the Public Works Department is analyzing each of the neighborhoods by going in and seeing firsthand what work needs to be done to complete them.
And often you'll see a stormwater pond that needs to be completed. There are missing sidewalks. You'll see asphalt, the final layer that's missing. And this is really obvious to anybody who drives through the neighborhood because you'll see raised manholes and valves that you have to drive over. It makes it for an unpleasant driving situation.
The City Council recently received an update on how those evaluations are progressing.
We've gone in and made an assessment of all the work that needs to occur, and we have that listing for all the streets. We're still working on everything that needs to be done for the stormwater pond, so that's still a work in progress.
One of the specific projects that just received City Council approval is Riverside on the Eno.
We'll be moving in with our repaving crew to put down that last layer of asphalt, so then the citizens won't have to be dodging around the manholes and the valve covers anymore. They'll have a nice new layer of asphalt down, and they'll have a smooth street and be able to drive through their neighborhood. The stormwater ponds still need to have the work assessed that needs to be done. They're very overgrown, lots of weeds and pine trees were in the way. We've had those removed so that now we can get in there and assess what work needs to take place to get those storm ponds up and working.
In addition to going ahead and completing some of the repaving in these struggling developments, the city is working to identify whether there are other parties that can be held responsible for completing the work within specific neighborhoods. It is also trying to secure additional funding for the rest of the failed developments where other parties cannot be identified. Plans are moving forward to reduce Durham's risk during future water shortage emergencies and to adapt to continuing growth. The City Council approved a $993,000 site design contract to allow for the evaluation of Teer Quarry. The goal is for the quarry to be used as a short-term water storage and pumping facility that can meet the city's needs during emergencies, as well as that can be expanded for long-term operations. Currently, the city can use temporary diesel-powered pumps for emergency withdrawals from the quarry, as was done during the 2007 drought, but it does not allow the city to fill the quarry from the Eno River. To find out more about Durham's water supply sources, visit the Water Management Department's homepage on the city's website. The exposure to deteriorating lead paint remains a significant hazard to the health of many in Durham, especially in children under the age of 6. That's why the city has accepted $356,000 in federal grant funds to continue its lead abatement program.
The reason why lead paint is dangerous to children is because it affects their nervous system, their brain development, and also it causes learning disabilities. And what happens is lead gets into the body two ways, through ingestion, meaning inhaling, or digestion. And what happens is children are subject to reach the window surfaces where there's lead dust, and then with the fingers and then ingest that into the system.
To help address those dangers, the city has used previous federal grants to educate the community on the health hazards of lead and to eliminate lead-based paint hazards in homes.
Well, the city has received 4 prior lead hazard control grants from HUD, and approximately 1,000 houses have been either abated, interim controls, or super cleans. So we have addressed approximately 1,000 units.
This grant will be used to provide help to more than 24 additional homes that are occupied by young children.
We will attempt to contact at least 30 homeowners to make them aware of the funds. And if they have children under the age of 6, and if they qualify income-wise, then they're eligible to receive up to $8,000 in improvements.
For those not included in the program, but who worry the lead in their homes may be a health hazard, there are some things to keep in mind.
In houses that was constructed prior to 1978, you are subject to have lead paint. However, if you have lead paint, the issue is not disturbing the paint. If you do not disturb the paint, you should be okay. However, some things that you can do is making sure that you keep your window sills cleaned and also keep your floors vacuumed. Those are 2 areas that lead can get into the system in terms of lead on your windows and then your floor systems.
The total amount of funds available for the lead hazard control program is actually $416,000, thanks to a $60,000 community development block grant match. Changes are on the way for future elections in Durham, thanks to the 2010 census numbers. Find out what those changes are and who they'll affect when City Hall This Week continues.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back. There are several key pieces of legislation passed during the North Carolina General Assembly's long session that will have an impact on the city's administration and its residents. The City Council received a report on what those items are during its September 26th work session. They include the creation of a race gender neutral small business enterprise program. The program will promote the development of small businesses in the city and enhance the opportunities for small businesses to participate in city contracts. 911 transcript legislation that allows a transcript or altered voice reproduction of a 911 call to be made available to prevent the caller's voice from being identified. And the passage of a residential building inspections bill that requires counties and cities to have reasonable cause before inspecting apartments or homes.
And I think a key point here is that the legislation that was approved requires a systematic approach to inspecting residential properties. There's some more details about where the properties should be located versus a citywide approach. It has to be more of a systematic approach. And so this was some key legislation for the city as well.
City staff says reasonable cause does include a history of non-compliance with building ordinances. The boundaries for the city's electoral wards will soon be changing, a reflection of the population growth identified in the 2010 census.
In 2000, the census revealed that we had about 187,000 citizens, and in the 2010 census it was revealed that we had about 228,000.
Numbers that will affect the city's 3 ward districts in future elections.
In the city of Durham, the council is comprised of the mayor, 3 city council members that are elected at large, and 3 city council members that are a ward representative. So in essence, the ward system requires that those 3 individuals live in one of the 3 wards that we have here in the city.
The boundaries for the wards are supposed to contain approximately equal populations, which they no longer do.
Because of the population change since 2000, we've seen that the ward populations in and of themselves are no longer similar or equal. We've had a lot of growth in the south part of the city, which is Ward 2, so we find that that ward has significantly more people than wards 1 and 3, and that's why we need to readjust the ward boundaries to make the wards roughly equal to each other.
The changes to the wards are required to be made within 6 months of the release of the census numbers, but will not affect the election coming up on November 8th.
There'll be no impact on the 2011 elections. The next ward council elections are in 2013, and the changes will be implemented by then.
The City Council will have the final say on how the ward district boundaries should be changed. The outcome of this November's vote will have a significant impact on the future of transit in Durham County. Find out how when City Hall This Week continues.
When I need you, I just close my eyes and I'm with you, and all that I so wanna give.
You don't have to be a hero to be a hero. When you adopt a child from foster care, just being there makes all the difference.
Traction control, front and rear crumple zones, anti-lock braking system. For all the modern safety features an automobile has, a motorcycle has none of them. In North Carolina, there were 3,500 motorcycle crashes last year, killing 151 riders. Remember, in order for your helmet to do its job, you need to do yours first. Make sure it's a compliant helmet. For more information regarding training in your area, visit bikesafenc.com.
Welcome back. The Durham Emergency Communications Center is marking an important achievement. It has been reaccredited for the 3rd time as an Emergency Medical Dispatch Center of Excellence, the highest distinction awarded by the National Academies of Emergency Dispatch. The reaccreditation recognizes Durham for its implementation and compliance with the Medical Priority Dispatch System. The system includes scripted telephone instructions for CPR, airway obstruction relief, hemorrhage control, and childbirth assistance. The National Academies of Emergency Dispatch is the public safety dispatch industry's leading certifying and standard-setting organization. Durham City and County are continuing their support of a Central Warrant Control Office in an effort to make sure that outstanding and backlogged warrants are handled as efficiently as possible.
The Central Warrant Control Office is a location where all of the warrants, orders for arrest, and criminal summons for people who live in Durham or are believed to be in Durham or generated in Durham are recorded and stored.
Functions seen as so important, the city will pay up to $182,000 to help fund 8 full-time clerks and 1 full-time supervising clerk, plus specific office cost. All intended to help continue to bring order to what were separately run systems by the city and county.
Well, historically, the warrants, orders for arrest, and criminal summons that were generated here in Durham were sent out to different law enforcement agencies for them to attempt service. If the law enforcement agencies were unable to locate the person, then they would return it to the clerk of court's office. The normal hours for the clerk of court's office is only 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And unfortunately, people get located who have outstanding warrants for arrest after those hours. So, Warrant Control is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is available to assist law enforcement officers with serving all of these old paper copies of warrants for arrest and orders for arrest.
Accessibility that has helped to make a big difference in the number of warrants that are now served in a timely manner.
All of the warrants are located in one centralized location right next door to the magistrate's office. Its location makes it convenient for law enforcement officers who are trying to serve these warrants for arrest to come on in and pick up the warrants from the magistrate's office, which is right next door, and serve the person right then and there. The other main thing is that a lot of warrants get served every year. In fact, somewhere around 2,800 since Warrant Control opened January 1st, 2009, have been served by people coming to turn themselves in.
In addition to the shared clerical cost of operating the office, the city will also pay $282,000 for the salary and benefits of 4 officers in the Warrant Squad Division. The future of transit in Durham will lie in the hands of voters on November 8th. That's when many of you will decide whether to approve a half-cent sales tax to support transit improvements throughout the city, county, and the region.
There's really 3 elements to the bus and rail investment plan. The first piece is the bus service expansion. This is the service improvements for Data and Triangle Transit throughout Durham County. The second phase would be the commuter rail service. This would be a rail service connecting from West Durham through downtown, through Research Triangle Park, Cary, Morrisville, West Raleigh, downtown Raleigh, Garner to Johnston County, a 37-mile system. The third element would be a light rail system, the 17 miles that would extend from East Durham near Alston Avenue through downtown, Duke University, Medical Center, South Square, 15501, 54, and into Chapel Hill and UNC. So it's a three-phase system.
If the tax is approved by voters, collection could start by April of 2012 and improvements could start fairly soon.
The bus improvements could be made quickly. We have bus capacity. Buses can be ordered and put on the street very soon. So within the first 1 to 3 years, we would expand the level of bus service throughout Durham by over 30%, serving areas that aren't served today and providing more frequent service in some of the high demand corridors. Rather than every 30 minutes, we could be looking at running buses every 15 minutes. We could also expand park and ride service and demand response service throughout the entire county. So that's the first 3 years we could expand bus service. We'd also begin planning for the commuter rail service and doing the design work necessary to actually construct the system that would support commuter rail. That would begin immediately, and we'd expect by 2018, or within nearly about 6 years, we could actually be implementing commuter rail service between Durham and Raleigh. The light rail service, because it's going to be on new alignment, will take a little longer. It's going to be more expensive as well, but it's expected that that service could actually be implemented by 2025.
For more information about the referendum, visit the Board of Elections homepage on the county's website or watch this month's episode of City Life, now airing on DTV8. Is your home becoming cluttered by old computers and other small electronics that no longer work? If so, you'll want to find out how the city can help. We'll take a look at Durham's e-waste recycling services when City Hall This Week continues.
Alone in the dark,
be a hero to be a hero. When you adopt a child from foster care, just being there makes all the difference.
Butler residents? Everything that gets into our storm drains, soap, pesticides, pet waste, whatever, makes its way straight to our streams and into where you swim, what you drink, and where you fish. Stormwater runoff is our biggest source of water pollution. You're the solution now that you know where it goes.
Welcome back. The city is celebrating yet another successful paper shredding and e-waste recycling event. Held on September 24th at Northgate Mall, hundreds of Durham residents took advantage of the chance to safely dispose of their electronics and paper documents.
E-waste recycling refers to any electronics. We usually refer, those type of items are televisions, computers, pretty much anything with a cord. Besides appliances, we don't get into appliances when we are referring to e-waste.
Many of those items are often seen as difficult to get rid of, so people just hang on to them or dispose of them incorrectly. But through free events like this, those taking advantage of the opportunity didn't even have to leave their cars.
It's important for the city to hold e-waste and shredding events for residents because for our electronics, North Carolina passed legislation that went into effect July 1st of 2011, which bans any electronics from going to the landfills. Number one, it takes up landfill space. Number two, some of the items that are found in electronics are hazardous. So the Solid Waste Management Department wanted to be proactive in making sure that we are in compliance with state legislation. As far as the paper shredding is concerned, there are people have confidential items that they keep throughout the year, and with the rise of identity theft, this is a way that residents can get rid of those items and recycle that paper.
If you couldn't attend the September event but still need to safely recycle your old electronics, there are more options available to you.
We encourage residents to take electronics to our waste disposal and recycling center, and that center is located at 2115 East Club Boulevard. Residents can take electronics there Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4:30 and Saturdays from 7:30 to noon, and it is free of charge. So in between our e-waste events, residents are encouraged to take items there.
Nearly all electronic devices with a cord are accepted at that location, except large appliances, refrigerators, air conditioners, or anything with Freon.
The Waste Disposal and Recycling Center will accept electronics such as computers, computer equipment like your keyboards, mouses, TVs, VCRs, DVD players. Those types of items are acceptable. You can also bring stuff like microwaves as well, hair dryers, curling irons, and the list goes on and on.
The Solid Waste Management Department also provides curbside collection of electronic items. Up to 3 items can be placed at the curb at one time on your normal trash collection day. For more information on Durham's e-waste recycling program, contact Durham One Call at 560-1200 or visit the city's website. That does it for this edition of City Hall This Week. Be sure to like DTV8 on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to find out how you can tune into this show, city life, and all the city's programming. You can also find us on demand on the city's website at durhamnc.gov/DTV8. I'm Amy Blaylock. Thank you for joining us for City Hall This Week.